We already covered widgets that have a particular value like score, tag, data or entity. But each programming environment also needs logic. These can be simple questions like, is my score bigger than 5? Is an entity in range? Does a particular block exist? Or which entities have my tag? But you may also want to combine single questions. Minecraft solves this problem with this execute if subcommand, though to really work with this, we need a way to encapsulate the result and work with the conditions logically. So objD deals with this by adding new operators like or, and, not, or else. Stay tuned to learn more on how to work with those in objD. Well, at first we need the if widget. This needs a condition or conditional statement. And then, if this condition is true, we can execute a list of widgets. This also uses the group internally, so that this is outsourced in another file. And here you can also optionally insert another list as else statement. This uses a unique tag, like you can see here if I compile this. We do have this tag with the ID. And this tag is basically added to an entity if the condition is true and checked for all the results. To change which entity gets this tag, you can also specify assign tag and assign it to entity.selected, for example. With the condition.score, you can test for a score. Keep in mind that you have to insert a conditional query here. Learn more about that in the video about scores here. This can also be shortened by inserting the score directly into the condition constructor, which accepts a dynamic value. There's also a condition.tag, which tests for a tag on a given entity that is specified in the tag. The entity constructor should also be self-explanatory. You just insert the entity that you're testing into the condition. And you can also insert a block or location into it, which would test for the current location and the given block, or for error at a given location. To combine both, you can use condition.block, where you set the location and the block. Last but not least, you can compare an entire area with another by using an area with x1, x2, etc. as arguments. For this to work, you also have to provide a compare area, starting with the lowest corner as location down here. Now we actually want to connect a few conditions. To negate a condition, just use condition.not. Also notice that the condition here can be any of the values that we covered or another condition type. Condition.and and condition.or take both a list of conditions or conditional values. So let's combine our knowledge and develop a logic here. So we want to use the if widget and first use the condition.or. And if you remember the questions from the beginning, we wanted to test a score. Now we know how to do that, and we just say score to define a new score, then our entity.selected, and of course the score word name, which would be, I don't know, test for example. And we want to test if this score is bigger than 5. We can do that by using the method matchesRange and insert a range here that goes from 6 to an unknown number. Next up, we want to combine a few conditions, so we use condition.end with another list here where we can insert conditional values. Let's test for an entity that is in a specific range. So let's say this entity should have the tag target, and we want the distance. You can see it requires a range, so we set the range here. Let's say this should go from 0 to 3. So with this we just test if there is an entity in range of 3 blocks with the tag of target. And we also want to know if the player is standing on a specific block. So let's use the condition.block here. As you know, this requires a location. So we say location.relative and insert y -1. All the other values are by default 0. And of course we need the block here. Let's test for block.redstone block. I want another condition in this OR here, and we want to negate that. by just writing condition.not. And let's test if a specific entity does not have the tag my tag. And of course we need to specify the entity here, entity.selected. So to make this a bit more beautiful, we just say format document, and we can see it is nicely laid out here. And you can see which condition is which here. And of course we also need a statement that we execute if all of this is true. So we say then and just log true here. Of course you can execute any other widget here. So let's see what objD makes out of this. We can see the tag objD is true 1 is introduced here, and it is added if the score is bigger than 5, if an entity is in range and we are standing on a block, and also if the current entity does not have the tag my tag, and if one of these is true, so this would be the OR part, the terror command with our console is executed. And just as a side note, we already covered the execute widget, and there is also a property called if, and here you can insert a simple condition. Condition.or or condition.and would not work here. Therefore you have to nest the if into the execute. Also keep in mind that this conditional system is in development, so things can change and there might also occur bugs. As always, check the full documentation on the conditions in the description and visit stevatus.com to gain more information on objD. If you want to know more about other widgets, you can check out the full playlist here.